Nairi, how you doing there?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing real good.
Okay, so what is unique about your school?
Well, what is unique about Indiana University of Pennsylvania? Well,
Yes.
we are a doctoral research institution, which is a bunch of fancy words for saying that not only do we offer 4-year degrees, but that people can continue at IUP and earn their doctorate too. So we have a lot of different options. We're one of the few state schools that is considered a doctoral research institution, so that's exciting. And
Okay.
we're able to say that while not being expensive. So we have a high quality education that we offer at a very reasonable price point. I don't want to say low because I'm still paying back my student loans, so I don't want to say
Yeah.
low, but at a reasonable price point.
Yeah. Okay. And about like showering in like your dorms, do y'all have your own like shower in there, or do y'all have like to go down the hall and have to shower everybody
That
else
that is
shower?
such a shift in questions. You said, "What is unique about your school?" And then, "Do I got to shower for all these people?"
That's just always something that I wonder with different schools.
That's all right. That's all right. I just love the shifting questions. So no, you won't have to be in a group shower
Yeah.
situation. This isn't prison. I don't know why some schools still have that situation,
Yeah.
but I know for IUP we are all suite style. So Indiana University of PA has 6 different types of suites, and no matter which one you choose, you're always going to share a bathroom with no more than one other person, who is the person in your suite. So if you'd like your own bathroom, there is a suite where you can have that. It is more expensive,
Yeah.
but you're only going to share it with one other person. When
Yeah.
I was a freshman at IUP, it was me and like 65 other guys, and I was
Wow.
the only clean one on the whole floor.
Yeah.
I was wearing 1 inch Crocs so that the shower water wouldn't touch my feet.
Hmm.
But you don't have to do any of that stuff anymore unless you want to wear Crocs. You don't have to because you only have a shower with one other person.
Okay, okay, yeah, that's just always something that I wonder about certain schools, and um, what's that? What like SAT and ACT scores are needed?
That's a great question. So that's based on whatever major you choose. Okay, so we have specific requirements for certain majors. What I'll say is that the hardest major to get into at IUP, and what's probably the hardest major to get into at most schools, is nursing. So if you can meet the nursing requirements, it's very likely you'll meet all of the other, well, no, not very likely. It's a guarantee. If you're admitted to nursing, you'll be admitted to any major. So in order to get into nursing right now, right? So if you're watching this video, this information is safe for the fall 21 cycle, right? You would need a 3.25 cumulative GPA and a 1030 on the SAT in order to get into nursing. Now, if you have that, I can admit you into any majors. You don't have to choose nursing. I'm just telling you that's the hardest one to get into. Now, you might be thinking as a follow-up, well, what if I didn't take the test? Is IUP test optional? And the answer to that question is yes, we are test optional. So let's say we were using that same scenario and we wanted to know, how do I get into nursing? Because if I can get into nursing, I can get into everything, right? Well, if you were test optionally trying to get into nursing, you would need a 3.75 GPA. Actually, sorry, that went down. A 3.25 GPA. My apologies. So if you have a 3.25 GPA, I can let you into nursing and any major. So, yeah.
Okay, what is your diversity like after school?
So that's an interesting question. What I'll answer with is what you're probably more accustomed to, right? So I'm going to say 19%. Now, that's going off of how people identify. So 19% of our students identify as African American, Latino, Asian, Pacific Islander, biracial, mixed, or some form of underrepresented student. Now, what that number doesn't include is all of our amazing international students who would also not identify as white, but they're not from the United States originally.
Okay.
So if you add those amazing folks in, we're probably somewhere around 27 or 28% of our whole enrollment is somebody that identifies as non-white. Now, the big thing to consider, and this is just me getting on a soapbox for a little second, is diversity is a little bit more than skin deep. So when you ask what's our diversity like at IUP, we have students that need to use loans to pay for school. We have students that mommy and daddy can pay with a check,
Yeah.
right off the savings account. We have students that come from rural Pennsylvania, and we have students that come from Philly and Pittsburgh and Harrisburg and Erie. We have students that come from predominantly white high schools, and we have students that come from super diverse urban high schools. And then we have them from Catholic and prep schools too. And as I mentioned earlier, as far as our international students, we have students from over 50 countries that attend IUP. So our diversity numbers don't necessarily tell the full picture. We have
Yeah.
a pretty diverse student population, but if you're talking about just race and ethnicity, it's 19%.
Yeah. Okay, what is the main major at your school?
That's tough to say. I guess what you're asking me is what's the most popular major, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it really depends each year, but I would say the top 5 are nursing, education in its many forms, whether it be early childhood, middle education, or secondary education, meaning you want to be a high school teacher. Business in its many forms is another popular thing. And I would say if I had to add anything else to the list, psychology and criminology are pretty popular majors as well. But we have over 100 programs, so it's not necessarily about finding the most popular program.
Yeah.
It's about finding the one that's the best fit for you. What do you think about studying?
I think I really want to get into psychology because I like that. I really don't know what I want to do, and that's what I'm searching for and trying to, because it's going to be my time to come soon, and it's going to come up. So I'm thinking about getting into psychology and like criminology. So
Yeah, well, whenever I'm working with a student, and we could always talk about this when we're not recording, I'm always asking students a couple of questions to consider. So one of them may be, what brings you joy, right? And you don't have to answer them now.
Okay.
We'll talk about this all the time. What brings you joy? Another question I might ask a student is, if you could solve one problem in the world, just one problem, and money weren't an issue, resources weren't an issue, what's the problem you would solve? Or what's something that makes you angry that you wish you could change, right? These are some of those questions that help you to go deeper and help you figure out, what do I want to study? Because maybe the problem you want to solve is the stigma against mental health, right? And people going to get mental health counseling or treatment and feeling like something's wrong with them because they're taking care of their mind or their emotions, right? So maybe that's a problem you want to solve. And as a psychologist or a school psychologist, you could help solve that. So to me, that's deeper than just, I want a job or I need some money.
Yes.
Right? It's like, okay, what's going to fill your soul?
Yes.
Is a big thing. So we'll talk about that offline. We'll talk about that. And I would say that goes for any of the students at your school. If anybody wants to dig a little deeper, we can talk about what majors we have at IUP. We also can talk a little bit about you, and let's see if we can find a good fit too.
Yeah. Okay. And what is the percentage of students that land a job right out of college?
That's a good question. So we did an exit survey a few years ago, and what we found was a little over 90%, I want to say it's like 92% of students ended up either finding a job, getting into their desired grad program, because some people don't go to work right away, they go to grad school, or they go into like Teach for America or the Peace Corps or the military. So it was saying that of the different routes one could take, and getting a job was one of them, about 92% of students were finding what they were looking for right after. It's never going to be 100%. That's not realistic, right?
Yeah.
Some people sometimes will choose things that they have no business choosing, or they'll choose something just because they wanted to figure out something, they didn't do any deep dive into themselves,
Mhm.
and then they end up not finding a job in that space. But most times people find something.
Okay. Mm, I think I asked you that one before.
These are
Oh.
some tough questions. I'm gonna need to eat lunch after this.
What drives students to your university?
Hmm. Well, I think as far as Western PA is concerned, what draws students to our university is, like I mentioned before, the variety of majors.
Mhm.
Having so many majors in such a tight knit community, such a small campus, I think is something that's a big draw. We're not too far away from Pittsburgh. We're only 3 hours from Harrisburg. You can even get to Philly in 4.5, because that's where my people are from, is Philly.
Mhm.
And so I think we're in a decent location, but we're still far enough from everything where you get the focus, right?
Yeah.
You don't have any of the distractions of Pittsburgh, but you're close enough to get back home whenever you want to. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the draws. It's a different speed here at IUP because again we are in like a rural suburban mix. Although depending on who you ask, they might say this is the big city. It really depends on who you ask. So we got some small towns nearby, and they're like, "No, Indiana, the city," but it's a slower pace. So I think people can focus on their studies, which is what they love. And in addition to having 100 programs, we have over 280 clubs and organizations. So students can get involved in the stuff they love, and I think that's also a big draw. The last thing I'll mention, and it's been tough because sports have been somewhat slow as of late because of COVID. But
Mhm.
another thing that's a big draw is our sports programs. Our women's basketball team has went to a national title game twice in the last 7 years. Our golf team is the winningest program in Division II history. Our football team has gone to a couple of national playoffs where they've gotten to the top four teams left in the country. So that's one of the draws is we bring in athletes from all over, and our
Yeah.
teams are pretty competitive. So I think that's one of the things that students like is they can go to sporting events in addition to going to a really quality school.
Yeah. How is your tuition there?
Okay, so the tuition is per credit. So it's based on how many classes you decide to take. A typical class is 3 credits, and so a student that is taking 12 credits is going to pay less than someone taking 15.
Yeah.
When we quote you, though, we always quote based on 15 credits. And the reason why we quote based on 15 credits is because that's what you need each semester to graduate in 4 years.
Mhm.
Students don't often realize that, so sometimes they enroll in less, but we want you to always take 15 or more so we can get you to graduate on time. So if you were to take 15 credits, I can tell you that your tuition, your fees, your room, and your board, so that's the full cost of coming to a school, will be somewhere a little over $25,000 a year. So when you're looking at schools, you want to make sure that you know those four things combined, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes a school will say, well, our tuition is only X, but they didn't tell you about the fees. They didn't tell you how much it's going to cost to live there. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
so if I'm homeless, I can afford this school. It's like, no. We're 25 for everything. The only thing we never quote, and I think most schools are good about this, is we never quote how much your books are going to cost
Mhm.
because that's something we don't know. It's really based on your major and based on how much a textbook costs each semester. Sometimes it could be less, sometimes it could be more. But everything else is included when we say that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's all the questions that I have for you today.
Okay, so I have a question for you. You weren't expecting this. I didn't but I got a
No.
question for you. So tell me why we should recruit students from your high school. Tell me why your high school is so amazing.
Penn Hills, we actually are a good school and we have a lot of smart kids here. Like kids are really smart and then the teachers are also great teachers too. So we learn good and everything. So I think Penn Hills kids, yeah, I like it here. So I've been in Penn Hills my whole life. I never switched no schools. Never really had any problems. So yeah.
Okay. And then how did you become the host of this amazing nationally broadcast television program?
My AP Lang teacher told me about it and asked if I wanted to do it, and I was just like, yeah, it would be a nice opportunity to do. And since I'm like coming up and having to like go to college soon, it was like a great opportunity for that too, to learn more.
So are you a senior now?
Now I'll be senior next year.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So then we'll have to stay in contact.
I
I got
know.
scholarship waiting for you, host, but you're not ready for it yet. So we'll talk next year about that. But if anybody is watching from Penn Hills, and I assume everybody will, I highly encourage you to reach out. So I don't have a way in which to write on the screen, but I'll say my email, and I'll say my Instagram handle. And so if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out to myself, Mr. Daniel, from IUP, you can reach out. So the email you want to hit me up on is ddaniel, DDANIEL, at IUP.edu. And my Instagram handle, because I'm shameless, I'm going to tell you what my IG is so you can reach out to me there too. My Instagram handle is at IUP underscore Donovan. DONOVAN. So I hope you'll follow. I hope you'll ask questions. And if you're a senior, I hope you'll reach out and seek out some scholarship money and consider IUP as one of your many options. Thank you so much for interviewing me today.
Thank you.